How you doing, Bonnie?
Good, how are you?
Excellent, thank you. Up bright and early.
Yep.
I take it we did not go to trial January 11th.
4:45 last night, I left Janesville, Wisconsin.
Oh, gee.
Wow, how long did it take you to drive back?
6.5 hours.
Ew.
What are you doing in Janesville?
My daughter. And Barb had to do some work with their community over there on the poverty. So she had a meeting at 1:30 yesterday, so we didn't get out of there until Michigan time, 4:45.
Dennis? I assume we
Quarter
did
four
not
their
go to
time.
trial on the,
We'll go by their
thing on
time,
the
you
11th.
know,
Hey?
it looks better that way, you
Yeah,
feel
well,
better.
yeah.
Hadn't heard
We
anything.
can still get back here at a certain time, though.
It looks like you're an hour later.
We get a little bit of freezing ice rain.
I didn't have any coffee.
North of Chicago, and other than that,
Cold.
Coming now, yeah.
Oh, geez,
No, there's
we'll make them stand up there.
Yeah, it's overrated in there.
over there in that back
Strong
room to your right.
coffee.
I'm not.
I love
No,
coffee.
she's supposed to get them back.
No, yeah, clerk does stuff. Close minutes.
Yeah. Minutes?
Yeah, we have
Can't
Minutes.
recycle
Clerk-
those.
no, 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 no.
That gets back.
Okay,
Oh,
that's great.
I already threw the envelope away.
I was gonna say, that's
Well,
Larry said,
oh, she showed up.
Come on,
You
you're
shouldn't
coming
have.
anyway?
Showed up.
wow. One more.
Just see.
Man,
But don't bring.
amazing. Your cough hasn't gone away.
Well, I was at it for more than a week. I made one, I was at Wednesday,
Sorry, guys.
I stayed right down Friday.
No problem, I'm not next to you today.
Good morning, it's Wednesday, January 19th, 2011, 7:30 a.m. And I'll call to order the Ways and Means Committee of Grand Traverse County. Would you all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Bonnie, will you take the roll call, please?
Commissioner Wheelock?
yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Richardson?
Here.
Max Bauer? Here. Limcool?
Here.
Inman?
Here.
Henschel?
Present.
Gilman?
Here.
Fleece?
Present. Okay, approval of the minutes. Has everybody had a chance to review the minutes and also the minutes of the closed session of December 15th?
Mr. Chairman, I would move to approve the regular minutes of December 15th and the closed session minutes of December 15th as distributed.
Here for it.
Who supported?
Sleepy.
Been moved and supported, approve the minutes of December 15th.
Could we take those in separate order? We have some new commissioners that weren't here on December 15th.
Yeah, but we weren't here on the 15th for any
Most
of them.
likely would want to
Oh,
abstain from
okay.
that.
We can do it all at one.
Yeah, we're gonna abstain from all of them anyway.
So, you're gonna have to, if you're gonna abstain on,
Well,
you're gonna abstain on both of them anyways, because
yeah,
both in September.
so
Okay,
it
that's
wouldn't
fine.
make any difference.
Yeah, it won't make any difference. Okay.
Okay, and would you do a roll call on that, please?
Commissioner Thomas? Richardson?
Yes.
Max Bauer? Yes. Limcool?
Abstain.
Inman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Abstain.
Gilman?
Abstain.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Fleece?
Yes. Now we come to the first public comment in our program. Does anybody have any public comment? If you do, come up, sit down, and state your name and address, please.
Good morning. My name is Bill Dwyer. I live at 601 Highland Park Drive in Traverse City. I'm also a newly appointed Parks and Recreation Commissioner, appointed, I think, in October and then reappointed just at the beginning of this year. I'm here today to express my personal concern, I'm not speaking for the board, at the decision that was made on January 12th to abolish the baseball program. Whether or not the county runs that program or the American Legion is not my concern. My concern is the way that that decision was made without any input from the Parks and Recreation Commission. It makes me wonder, what's the point of having a Parks and Recreation Commission if you guys are going to make decisions like that without any consultation? That's all I've got. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Is there any other public comment? If not, we'll close public comment. Approval of the agenda?
I'll make a motion to approve the agenda with just one small notation. I have a request from 2 commissioners to change assignments, and I'd like to just handle that under item B3, just as a notice to the board.
Under item what?
I'll pull the consent calendar, item 7, under B, approved board appointments. I'll pull that and address it.
All right.
So with that, I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar as presented.
Support.
Who supported it? It's been moved and supported to approve the agenda as amended. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? Motion passes. I don't believe we have any special orders of business.
No.
Next thing would be the consent calendar. Would you read that, please, Bob?
The purpose of the consent calendar is to expedite business by grouping non-controversial items together to be dealt with by one commission motion without discussion. Any member of the commission, staff, or the public may ask that any item on the consent calendar be removed therefrom and placed elsewhere on the agenda for full discussion. Such requests will be automatically respected. If any item is not removed from the consent calendar, the action noted, receive and file or approval, is approved by a single committee action adopting the consent calendar. A, receive and file. Number 1, Sheriff's Office Storage Building Change Orders. B, approve. Number 1, appropriation requests. Number 2, federal government request for office space. Number 3, board appointments.
I would be open for a motion on approval of the consent calendar.
Yeah.
Do not
Ask the members of the public if they want to pull them.
Is there any items the public wishes to pull from the consent calendar?
Yes.
Any items that the board wishes to pull?
B3.
We'll put B3 under E then.
Under what?
E, C.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman, I move we approve the consent calendar with the exception of item B3.
Support?
Been moved and supported to accept the consent calendar with removal of item B3. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay? We have to have roll call.
Consent calendar is a roll call.
Yeah, we need a roll call, Bonnie.
Richardson?
Well, we're just practicing here.
It's your first trial run.
Warming up.
Yes.
Richardson?
Yes.
Maxbauer?
Yes.
Lemko?
Yes.
Inman?
Yes.
Henschel?
Yes.
Gilman?
Yes.
Wheelock?
Yes, ma'am.
Thomas?
Yep.
Please.
Yes. Next item would be resource recovery. I hear Bob's here to discuss that, I believe. It's page 12 in your packet.
Bob Ostart, Resource Recovery Manager. What I've got in your packet this morning is a recommendation for appointments to the Solid Waste Management Planning Committee. We only received 3 from the general public, and that's the 3 listed on in my recommendations.
Mr. Chairman?
Yes.
With regard to the representative from county government, as chair of the board, I would recommend that we fill that spot with Commissioner Sonny Wheelock.
Okay. Or. Is there any other motion or recommendations on that? Been moved and supported to appoint Sonny Wheelock as the representative from county government. And all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion passes.
I would move that we appoint the Solid Waste Management Planning Committee as presented.
Support.
Been moved and supported to appoint the Solid Waste Planning Committee as presented. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes.
Thanks, Bob.
We should have our first meeting, it looks like February 8th will be our first meeting. So, thank you.
Thank you, Bob. Next item is equalization recap of the L 4018s. Lori? And that's page 14 in your packet.
Before we get into the recap of the 18s, I wanted to talk about really what equalization is or isn't, or what the L4018s are all about for new board members and old board members that maybe don't remember. The assessor, by personal inspection and examination, gathers and records information on all available data on property. That includes location, the number, amount, kind, and value of any and all property and persons that they are required by law to assess. It's really hard to overstate the importance of assessors to the administration of the property tax and indirectly the vitality of local units of government. Appraised values as the basis of assessed values determine the distribution of property tax levies among taxpayers. Only if these values are correct will tax limits and the distribution of state aid to localities be as the legislature intended. Boards of review and this county board, when you equalize, can never fully correct poor initial assessments. County equalization is this board's function. Our department exists in the Constitution to assist the county board with this function. County equalization directors and staffs are required to conduct a study in every unit and every class every year. And we do this on behalf of this board. The law also states the County Board of Commissioners, through the Equalization Department, may furnish assistance to local assessing officers in the performance of duties imposed on these officers by this act, including the development and maintenance of accurate property descriptions, the discovery, listing, and valuation of property for tax purposes, the development and use of uniform valuation standards, and the techniques for the assessment of property. Some examples of fulfilling this mandate are the GIS system that we've established here in the county, in which we've developed a framework for accurate property descriptions and also the maintenance of the same. Recently, the TMA Discovery Program, in which we will help list and value personal property for tax purposes for the assessors, and recent work on class standards in the county are just some examples of some of the things that we've done to assist the local assessor. A big tool for assessors in their job are the aerials. Our department assisted with the acquisition of 6-inch pixel color high-resolution aerials for the assessors. This is a first at this resolution in the county in color. The new 2011 Grand Traverse County Plat Book will be released soon. This plat book will also feature the new aerials, and we're probably one of the only plat books in the state that include aerials within the plat book. I sincerely hope that the board understands that with GIS, all county departments can have a comprehensive and highly integrated platform for sharing, converting, editing, mapping, managing, analyzing, and disseminating land records data, as well as providing internet access to the public, business, and other organizations. We assist a lot of departments in the county, including 911, with their system. It's a tremendous system, and if you haven't seen it, I would invite any commissioner to come and see some of the things that we've done. The studies that our department performs are required to be submitted to the state December 31st. December 31st was a holiday, and then we had Saturday and Sunday, so it became January 3rd this year. But all studies have been submitted to the state, and what I'm going to show you today are the compilation of the studies that we did submit to the state. We complete a study in every class, which includes both real and personal. This particular slide shows you both the class codes for the real, the symbol, and the name of the class. There's not necessarily a relationship between assessment roll classifications and zoning classifications. The breakdown of the assessment roll descriptions by use or classifications is to ensure a more accurate statistical sampling and to determine if assessment bias by classification exists in any assessing unit. Some classes experience more accelerated value increases than other, and equalization studies by class indicate if we have such circumstances when we do the studies. These are the class codes for the personal property, and again, it breaks it down by class code, symbol, and name of class. Just an example, the agricultural real is used partially or wholly as farmland with or without buildings, and it also includes our DNR parcels. Our commercial real is defined as the platted or unplatted with or without buildings, wholesale, retail, or service type services, apartments that are more than 4 units. Industrial are the utility sites for generating plants, pumping stations, substations, compressing stations, and parcels used for removal or processing of gravel, stone, or mineral ores. Our residential real, which is the largest class in Grand Traverse County, include condominium, apartments, our hunting lands if they're used for recreational purposes, lake lots. Description for timber cutover, stocked with forest products of merchantable size and type and size. Cutover forest land with little or no merchantable products, marshland, or other barren lands. Development containing more than 5 acres with outbuildings or more than 15 acres and whose value in sale exceeds its value in present use. This particular screenshot that I put on the screen is a 34-acre parcel that is classed ag. It's located on the east arm of Grand Traverse Bay, and it has 700 feet of lake frontage. The value in sale would probably exceed its present value in use if you would break up that that 700 feet that's located along the bay. So just an example of a parcel that could be considered in developmental real. Our agricultural personal class includes farm buildings on leased land and any equipment and produce not exempt by law. Most of it is. Commercial personal property includes all equipment, furniture, and fixtures on commercial parcels and inventories not exempt by law. Outdoor advertising signs and billboards, well drilling rigs, and that type of thing.
Excuse me, Lori, did you say that most farmland personal property is exempt?
Most is, yeah.
Oh.
Our industrial personal property includes machinery and equipment, furniture, and fixture on industrial parcels and inventories not exempt by law. Personal property of mining companies valued by the state geologist. Our utility personal property includes electric transmission and distribution systems, substation equipment, spare parts, gas distribution systems, and water transmission and distribution systems. Oil wells and their associated equipment such as tanks, gathering lines, and field pump units and buildings, and so forth. And the reason I brought this to the board's attention, because until 2008, the class that the property was in really didn't make any difference. The millage was the same, no matter what class it was in, you're still 50% of true cash value. But we've had a change, and last year, the state filed against local units of government 10,000 appeals with the Michigan Tax Tribunal because of classification. Classification now is important in personal property. If it's classified industrial, it receives a 24 mil property tax exemption. Personal property classified as commercial receives a 12 mil property tax exemption. And Michigan business taxpayers receive a 35% refundable tax credit for property taxes paid on industrial personal property. So it has become critical, the class that a property is in, and there's been a lot of work in the rolls to make sure that we have accurate classifications in the roll, and like I indicated, a lot of Michigan Tax Tribunal appeals. So really, why do we have equalization? The point of equalization is taxes raised in each assessing district contribute to several taxing districts. Not only do taxpayers support their local government, which might be a township or a city, but they also support the local school district, the intermediate school district, the community college, county government, and special taxing jurisdictions that you might have. Beginning in 1994, with Proposal A, taxpayers also began to pay a statewide state education tax, and these taxing jurisdictions cover obviously more than a township or a city. A school district might lie in more than one county. So what we've had is a system of equalization, county equalization being part of that process, where if you had true cash value in 3 different townships of $50,000 and assessments that didn't equal half of that, you have a process of equalization. So at the end, equalized value was it all at $25,000, which is the purpose of both county equalization and state equalization. Revenue is simply our millage multiplied by our taxable value. What's complicated things in Michigan now is we have both assessed and taxable value in our tax rolls, and obviously we also have a system of cap value, and so it has really complicated our rolls. Taxable value is capped, and it's the lesser of state equalized value or cap value, unless the property is sold, and then the following year it uncaps to the state equalized value. The Constitution states that there were several things that had to occur within this taxing process, and one is that you had to have uniform ad valorem taxation of real and personal. You had to have a determination of true cash value. The level of assessment had to be 50% of true cash value. There had to be a system of equalization and a determination of what taxable value would be on the roll. And obviously that taxable value can't exceed 50% of true cash value. And taxable value can't increase annually more than the lesser of the increase of the CPI, or 5%, unless ownership is transferred. What's interesting in our rolls this year as opposed to last year, and I wanted to point that out because we're talking about assessed value today, when you look at the increases on the sheets in front of you, is that last year we had, if you recall, a negative CPI, the first one in Michigan. This year we have a positive CPI. Of 1.7%. So that's one of, I just wanted to point that out because when you look at your sheets and look at the decrease that we have in the county, it's going to be different when it comes to taxable value. Again, as I indicated, if we don't have good work at this level, which is what, like building a house, if you don't have a strong foundation, the function of county equalization and state equalization won't cure the ills in that local unit. It does try to make sure we have equity, but where that value is placed within the unit won't be fixed with either county or state equalization. The county's responsibility through the Equalization Department is to make the recommendations to the state as to the values in those rolls, and to make the recommendation to this board as to where we are in the various local units. County's responsibility as a County Board of Commissioners is to adopt that equalization report the Tuesday following the first Monday in April. Again, as I'd indicated, county equalization does not in any way change individual assessments. What happens if the county adds value or deducts value is they take it from the total value of each of the 6 classes and the 5 classes of personal property. And we do equalize by class. Final equalization certification is signed by the county board chairman and the county clerk, and it's placed in the various assessment rolls, allowing them to complete their taxation process. So now I'll turn to the studies that we have submitted to the state. Our agricultural class, we're indicating our agricultural class represents 2.64% of the county total value. We're indicating an increase, a decrease here of, I got to get down to my sheet here, get to my page. Decrease of 5.72% in this class, with the largest decrease in Blair Township at a minus 22.95%, and an increase in Peninsula Township of 3.16%. The next class is our commercial class. The commercial class represents 18.63% of the county total value. There is a decrease in the commercial class of 7.16%, the largest decrease in Grant Township and the smallest in the city of Traverse City at 0.42%.
Those percentages decreases in the smaller townships, can that just be one parcel of property that would do that?
Yes, and some of those smaller townships, as you're probably aware if you've ever looked at our rolls, have very limited numbers in their class.
One sale in a small township can make a huge percentage difference.
Oh, yeah.
The industrial class represents 1.74% of the county total value. There is a decrease in the industrial class of 7.08%. This is the class that impacts the county the most. The residential class is 72.31% of the county total. There is a decrease in the residential class of 6.24%. The largest decrease in Grant Township and the smallest decrease in the city of Traverse City. In personal property, you don't see any change there, and that is because our department, when those returns come in, go in and do record verification on the personal property counts to verify that that's a self-reporting statements, and we go in to take a look to see what's happened there. And in addition to that, we're also performing a discovery program right now. Total decrease for real in Grand Traverse County is 6.42%, with the largest in Grant and the smallest decrease in the city of Traverse City. Our total, again, real and personal, 6.12%. The next 2 pages show the same percentage, but it's broken down by class. The two that go to the state, this one is one of them on the real property. This is their required report to the state. It's just another way of looking at the same data. This is for the real property. And then the next one is another required report to go to the state, and that's the L40, what they call the L40 18P, and that's for personal property. We are required by law to publish the county tentative equalization ratios and multipliers in a generally circulated newspaper on or before February 21st. Are there any questions regarding the study that has been submitted to the state?
Lori, do you anticipate that when the personal tax statements come in, we'll see a reduction in personal property tax valuations also? Because those aren't due until, what, the end of February?
They're typically, if no new equipment is purchased, you're going to see a reduction because of the multipliers that are used. It's my expectation, and I'm seeing quite a few new accounts, that we're going to also have some new personal property, so how that all falls out, whether we'll have an increase or a decrease, I'm expecting it to stay, if not the same, at least a slight increase.
Was there some anticipation when we did the budget that we thought evaluations would remain flat for the following budget year?
Yeah, and Larry, that's why I brought up earlier that when we're looking at this study, if you remember last year, we had a minus 6.12% in value, and our taxable went down 1.93%. But last year, we had a negative CPI. This year, we have a positive CPI. And where we end up depends on what kind of a gap we've had, how large of a gap we still have in some of our properties between assessed and taxable.
Right.
Those where we have a gap, we're going to have a 1.7% increase.
Okay.
Those that we don't, so it's really hard to judge where we end up, but I would expect we're going to pull even, if not.
For those of you who will recall, towards the end of the budget process, we finally got the certification from the state of the 1.7% consumer price index increase, or the value increase. And I think you budgeted about 1% of that. So we left a cushion there. But in addition, when we were projecting the budget, Lori and Dean and I, at the time that we projected the budget, estimated that we had about $70 million in tax appeals before the tax tribunal. And if you'll recall, we anticipated that we'd lose about 50% of those, which might have been a little optimistic. So we cut the budget by $167,000, indicating a 50% loss of those tax appeals. So both of those things were in place.
All right, okay.
Herb?
No, where are we at with the personal property tax auditing?
Right in the middle of it. They're currently, tax management is currently working on what they consider their discovery program. We've gone through some initial phases of getting letters ready, making sure I have the letterheads ready, the personal property statements ready, that type of thing, while they finish up where they are. We're hoping to get those lists to the assessors in time for March Board of Review.
Understand, we're not doing what
we're not
you would
doing an
consider a personal property audit. All we're doing is, this company is looking to see any companies that may not be on the tax roll, and then just preparing a list of those that they find, and then giving those to the local units of government in hopes that they'll follow up. The county board decided not to do any personal property audits.
Yeah, we're just following up on the ones that have not filed.
Yeah, these are just strictly non-filers in our role.
Okay.
Are there any other questions, Lori?
Motion to approve the L4018.
Support.
Any other discussion?
Just one, is this available as a PDF on the?
Yes, it is.
Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if any of you don't want these extra copies, you can give them back to Lori. We have other uses for them.
I'm going to take mine to Garfield Township, drop it off this morning.
Been moved and supported to approve the L 4018. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Nay. Motion passes.
Thank you, Lori.
Next item on our agenda is our treasurer, Bill Rokas, discussing refunding of bonds and delinquent tax assessing upgrades. Morning, Bill.
Good morning. Yeah, excuse me. First thing on the agenda is I've given you an update on our refunding of the Traverse City wastewater treatment bonds. It's the opinion of our financial advisor and bond attorney that we had scheduled the sale for January 20th. That was the earliest we could get this sale scheduled with all the township resolutions, county board resolution that you passed the end of last month, and all the financial data. But what's happened during all that process, some of you may be aware that the municipal market has spiked up in interest rates, so our initial projections for savings has deteriorated, and it's the financial consultant's opinion that we should hold off on that sale for a little while to let the market settle back down. One of the main reasons was the large volume of bonds that went to market in December, put a lot of supply in the market. And then there's also been a lot of talk in the media about municipal defaults happening this year. He believes a lot of that is a little bit hyped up. We met with, we didn't meet, but we had conference calls with our rating agency on our rating, and as a result of that, I believe our rating is going to maintain the same or possibly go up a notch.
Wow.
But we haven't gotten a confirmation yet on that. But given those reasons, he's suggesting that we hold off on this and take a look at it early next month. We can get to market, now that we have everything in place, we can get to market within 7 to 10 days. So his idea is to wait a little bit. The bonds that we're calling have a call date of May 1st, 2011. And that's really the date that we would need to have the funds on hand to pay off those, to call in the old bonds. So that's just an update. I conferred with the city treasurer as well, since they have the biggest portion of this refunding. He would concur with that as well. So it's just I guess there's no action required, but it's an update for you.
Any questions regarding that, Jason?
When are we rated? I mean, when is our rating determined?
Our rating is normally determined when we go out for issuance of bonds, because if we issue over, I believe it's $1 million issue, then we're required to have them rated by at least one rating agency. And at that time, they rate our issue and reaffirm our rating on all our prior issues. We're currently, I believe, a double A or double A minus.
We're double A in standard. And assuming we move one level up in our rating, how does that affect us? How much does that make a difference typically?
It's hard to say how much it makes a difference. I don't know exactly. I mean, I can get that information from historical sales but a lot of it is determined by the market. I mean, that's a good indicator that if we maintain our rating or if it goes up, that's a good indication for, the ultimate buyers of our bonds that we're going to pay them back. But what's happening right now, there's a lot of talk in the media about municipalities defaulting, and we get painted with the broad stroke of that.
Yeah, I think, I remember reading a study probably 5 years ago that indicated it varies depending on where you're at in the structure of the bond rating. So in other words, if you're in the middle, if you're at a B or something and you get the increase, it has a little bigger impact than if you get up to the top and you're moving one notch. But I believe that my recollection is that it's somewhere around 2 basis points, 0.2% roughly, is what it can mean. And that was a 5-year-old study, you know. But as Bill said, it all depends on the rating at the time, you know, what the market bears at the time.
Thank you.
So we'll keep you informed of this issue. I mean, the impact to the county itself is minimal because this is a Traverse City wastewater treatment bond, but ultimately what we're doing is trying to reduce the interest costs for those local municipalities.
You'll recall that when you first brought this bill, the estimated savings was in the $1,900,000 range in savings to the local communities, and by the time we were through a month of that process, it had gone down to around $1,560,000 were the estimates. So it fluctuates greatly, and it's still going to be savings, but we're hoping to pick up a few $100,000.
Yeah, I don't think there's much downside in waiting at this point. The only major thing that would happen is if some large municipality defaulted, then the market would not react very well, and our savings would be diminished. But I think the likelihood of that happening is in the next few months isn't going to.
Jason?
When you say large municipality, are you talking in our region or
anywhere because of the headline risk that would.
The hype.
It's
so
the
like
hype.
in California, if a municipality were to.
Yeah, or New Jersey or somewhere.
State of California.
Michigan.
Bankruptcy, we got a problem.
Thanks.
Any other questions regarding that matter? Okay, the next item, Bill?
Yeah, the next item has kind of been a long ongoing process. We've started this process over a year ago, actually, with our software vendor. Currently, all our townships, back in the early 2000s, we convinced all the local units and the county to be on one tax collection system, which we went with BSNA software. Since then, they've rewritten their program, and they're in the process of converting all their software. And the local units in the county need to update to that new software. It's called the .NET system. And we've been working with, we've had a large committee. We've been working with the townships, township assessors, treasurers, MIS, equalization, because it affects all of our departments. And then when we were looking at that upgrade, what we also looked at was updating my delinquent tax system to go with the BSNA software as well, so they would all integrate together. And because currently my delinquent tax system was developed in the early 1980s on the AS400, and it's it's done its job. But I say it's a dinosaur. It's been every time there's a tax law change, we've had to, go into this 400 system and basically make it work. Where BSNA has, I think currently they have 39 counties that, it's in the 30s, that have gone to this delinquent tax system. They're the major player in the delinquent tax. They actually have the legislators going to them now and asking them if their tax law changes, how to implement them. and incorporate them into the collection process. So I think it would be a wise move if, when we make this switch, that we also look at updating our delinquent tax system to go with the BSNA software. They've given us what I think is a very good bid. We've been working with them over a year to get this bid down to where it is today. Some of the main highlights is they are agreeing to do our conversion from our delinquent tax, our current 400 system, into the BSNA. So we'd have all our data on the BSNA system. They basically agreed to do that for free. The original bid for that was $22,000. And then we've also been wanting to put our delinquent tax system on the internet, out on the web, and to collect delinquent taxes by credit card. This move would also help that. And for allowing us to put the information out there, on the web, they've given us a $25,000 discount for doing that. That would give BSNA some control over the people that want that information, but for individuals who search the records, that would still be free. You could still search your record out on the internet as an individual for no cost, but they would charge businesses, I believe it's $2 a hit, what they call, to look up that information on the web.
Would people still be able to go into their local municipality or the county and look up anything?
Yeah, an individual could look up your own parcel, and we would still have information here where an individual could come in and look up their information at no cost.
Or someone else's?
Or someone else could come in, a title company, if they wanted to come in. We have computers available for them to come in and look and do their own research. But if they chose to do it on the web through the BSNA site, then they would be charged for that. And then what BSNA would do would be share that revenue back to the county at 20%.
A couple of other things.
But I don't know if anybody, I have Lori here and Don, and then actually I have a township treasurer that came in from East Bay. And, Polly from the city assessor's office has been very instrumental in dealing with BSNA with us.
Mr. Chairman, a couple of other things, if I could, to add to that. Would that be okay?
Sure.
As Bill said, this is a county-wide collaboration, and one thing that I don't think he mentioned, but because of this new platform, several of the bigger townships are going to move to it anyway. And when they move to it, we won't be able to communicate with them unless we move to it. So that was another compelling factor to do this. But also, and Bill may have mentioned it, Bill, you were able, when you brought everybody together to do this and negotiated the price, you were able to get discounts for the townships as well in their costs, correct?
Yeah,
In the city?
Well, it wasn't just me, but...
Everybody, the group.
The group. If BSNA agreed to give them a 20% discount on the cost of their software if 75% of the local units switch. And to date, I believe we'll be well over that. I've only heard of maybe one or two of the smaller local units that would not be switching at this time.
And if a smaller local unit does not switch, they'll still be able to communicate their information to you when we're on the higher level platform.
Right.
Correct?
They'll still be on the BSNA software, and they'll be able to communicate to us. It was the other way that we'd have a problem. If they were updated to the .NET and we were not, then we would have a more difficult time.
And then the two other points that I wanted to make was this second piece that Bill's asking to upgrade is the delinquent tax fund. This continues our trend that we developed probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, where we're looking to contract out these development of softwares instead of doing them in-house. And this one then would be developed out instead of being supported in-house. The system we currently have is developed by our staff with Bill's help. And the last thing is that this money is being recommended from the tax delinquent fund, not from the general fund, recognizing we don't have the funds to be spending, on this kind of a project this early in the year. And Bill, the balance in the tax delinquent fund is?
Yeah, I brought that somewhere. I could tell you what it is, but I'd rather see it.
See, that's what you always get from Bill and Dean. I could tell you what it is, but I'd rather see it than tell you. And that you'll learn about me, I just tell you and then, hope that it's right. They look at the number.
I've got two funds, delinquent tax funds. One is the tax foreclosure fund, and that fund balance, that's where our land auction proceeds also go, so those are restricted. But there's currently, at the end of this year, there'll be $211,000 of funds available in that tax foreclosure fund. And then the delinquent tax fund, which is our major tax collection fund, the fund balance at the beginning of 2010 was $11,426,000, and at the end of 2010, after we've made all the transfers to the general fund and capital funds, we increased that fund to $12,263,000. So there was, $750,000 to $800,000 increase in that fund last year. That's a result of the unfortunate side is that we had more delinquent taxes. I don't know if you call it good news for the county, is that we collect pretty high interest rates per statute from the delinquent taxpayers, which resulted in that increase in that fund of close to $800,000 after we made transfers to the general fund.
Sonny?
I think we've probably pretty well covered it. I was just concerned whether or not the townships were on board and we're going to be able to afford to make the update, and you're telling us maybe they are.
I've gotten letters of support, if you want, from Garfield and Long Lake. East Bay is here in support of the move. The city is in support of the move. So we have the major units of government in the county that are supportive, and actually I've gotten support from actually all the units. The only one that I believe that may have some reservation due to funding issue is Grant.
And again, remember that if they decide not to do it now, they're still functioning and communicating with the new system. It still works. It's only the other way that it doesn't work.
Jason?
He says, in consideration for the $25,000 discount, essentially we're allowing them to data mine in whole, is the understanding.
Well, we're providing that data out on their website.
I'm just trying to make sure that it's understood.
I mean, currently we charge, actually it would be a benefit to my department if the title companies started going online and getting their own information, so we don't have to deal with all those calls.
That's the other part of the question.
And the work that's generated in my office. But we do charge them for that service. Probably the average cost is somewhere around $1 a parcel. We do almost all of that by fax now because we were so inundated with phone calls that we require them to fax that information to us, and then we fax it back to them. So.
Okay, and the other, and so essentially we're going to benefit from this ultimately financially.
Ultimately, we could benefit in two ways. Is that it provides, it would allow my office probably to not have to increase any staff, which, I mean, we've been at 4 employees with myself. I don't know since when, but it's been probably 15, 20 years. Without any increase, this one area is a large amount of our time for a little money that we have to devote to, which we could be devoting to other issues in our office.
I'm going to make a motion to approve it, but I also have a question.
Okay.
Support the motion.
Okay. My question is that those townships that can't afford to do that, can we do a loan to them to be able to do that out of this tax fund?
We could, but also BSNA in their proposal would allow us to defer the payment over a 2-year period.
Perfect.
So that's another positive that they're doing to try to get everybody to switch at the same time. And we're also hopefully we will save on training costs if everybody switches, because we can consolidate that.
Rob?
I was just curious, is this the only vendor you've looked at, or are there other vendors, and what are other counties using that are similar?
We looked at one other vendor. We didn't get much. We didn't get a whole lot of. We got some interest, but we also got some negative feedback from some of the townships that basically said, we don't want to switch. And we had such an effort to try to get everybody together to go on one system so that we all could communicate and help each other out, that we felt this was the best way to go, was to try to treat it as a sole source and negotiate the best rate we could as a group.
You suspect this is going to basically save an employee position, the amount of time it's going to save you?
Well, it's not going to save us a position, but I think it'll give us the ability to remain where we're at.
Okay.
My office is, for the new commissioners, my office is kind of an old office. We have 4 employees. The newest employee has 21 years of experience. So, 3 of us have over 25 years. So there's going to be some major changes in my office over the next year or two. And I believe having this system in place will help ease that transition.
Bill and I talked a lot about that. This is going to make it easier when that takes place. Bill, this is a commitment of a lot of resources, and it's obviously a lot of work to make the transition. Are you going to be able to, trying to think of the right way to say this, are you going to be here to help us complete this transition? I know you've been thinking about retirement.
That's pretty much the spot.
Yeah.
Are you on the spot, Bill?
No.
It's a good question if it works, if it gets the right answer.
Yeah, I'm not planning to run again. This will be my last term, which expires in December of 2012. And if we get this system, I'm hoping that we would get it so that we could settle with I'm going to settle with the local units under our old system in March of this year. And I'm hoping if things go well, that we could have this in place before the next settlement in March of 12.
And so you'll be here to help us finish that?
Tentatively plan to be here at least until...
I try not to ask questions that I don't already know the answer to, but I like to get them on tape. It's always good to get them on tape.
Well, one last question, if I may. How big is BSNA? How many counties are using this system?
It's probably the largest vendor in the state.
So they're going to be around.
They have